Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today, we're thrilled to present the Kingston Gambit, a gripping tale of mystery and determination. Join us as Alex, a billionaire's granddaughter, goes undercover to expose corruption in a luxury hotel, facing unexpected dangers and uncovering a vast conspiracy. Please subscribe and enjoy. The scent of stale ambition and the faint echo of forgotten grandeur clung to the air in the Kingston Hotel's lobby, a stark contrast to the crisp, clean mountain air Alexandra Alex Sterling had grown accustomed to. At 24, Alex moved with the quiet grace of a predator, though her prey wasn't a living creature, but the decay of a once proud institution. Her camera, a loyal extension of her arm, usually captured the raw beauty of untamed landscapes, not the faded opulence of a five-star hotel. Yet here she was, in a tailored, ill-fitting blazer that felt like a straitjacket, playing a part she never imagined. Alex was the granddaughter of Harrison Sterling, a name whispered with reverence in boardrooms and a hush in society pages. He was a titan, a man who built empires from sheer will, yet chose to live his later years in secluded, almost monastic peace. Alex, however, was forged in a different fire. Her childhood wasn't gilded with silver spoons, but tempered by early loss. Her parents, gone too soon, leaving her with a void only art and independence could fill. She'd chased light and shadow across continents, finding solace in the intricate dance of aperture and shutter speed. The vast Sterling fortune was a distant hum, a background noise she deliberately tuned out. Her small Brooklyn apartment, filled with developing chemicals and half-finished canvases, was her true sanctuary, a universe away from the polished marble and hushed whispers of the Kingston. A month ago, a rare, almost fragile call from her grandfather had pulled her back. His voice, usually a steady, unyielding current, had held a tremor. He spoke of the Kingston not as a mere asset, but as a legacy tarnished. Whispers of spiraling costs, plummeting guest satisfaction, and a pervasive, almost palpable malaise had even reached his remote sanctuary. "Something isn't right, Alex," he'd said, his words painting a picture of rot beneath a shimmering facade. "I need eyes on the ground, eyes that see beyond the balance sheets, your eyes." And so, Alex Smith, a recent college graduate looking for an entry-level position, was born. The irony was a bitter pill. To save a fortune she didn't want, she had to pretend to be someone she wasn't. Her first day as a junior assistant felt like a prolonged interrogation. She trailed Robert Maxwell, the hotel manager, a man whose tailored suit seemed to barely contain his inflated ego. His voice, a booming bass, echoed through the lobby, demanding, rarely requesting. His face, perpetually flushed, suggested a barely contained fury, a simmering volcano waiting to erupt. He clutched his phone, a sleek, expensive device as if it were a scepter, issuing commands and snapping curt replies to unseen callers. The hotel itself, once a jewel, now felt like a grand old dame slowly succumbing to neglect. Dust motes danced in shafts of sunlight that struggled to pierce the grimy windows, and the once lustrous brass fixtures showed a dull film of forgotten polish. "And this," he declared, sweeping an arm towards the sprawling empty ballroom, "is where our grand events used to happen, now just dust bunnies and broken dreams." He barked into his phone, "No, I told you the new shipment for the banquet hall must arrive by—" "What? Hold on." He gestured impatiently at Alex to follow him, his eyes glued to his phone. He walked with a swift, almost aggressive stride, his focus solely on his call. Alex, trying to keep pace and process the overwhelming details of her new job, felt her foot catch on a loose tile near one of the grand but chipped marble pillars. A jolt shot up her leg.
Her hand, instinctively reaching out for balance, brushed against Maxwell's arm, sending a ripple through his concentration. He flinched, his focus momentarily shattered, and the expensive smartphone slipped from his grasp like a wet bar of soap. Time seemed to slow. The phone arced through the air, a dark projectile against the gilded ceiling, before crashing onto the polished marble floor with a sickening crack. The sound echoed through the cavernous lobby, a tiny explosion of glass and circuitry. Maxwell's furious bellow filled the silence, a raw, primal roar. "What in God's name have you done?" His face, already red, turned a volcanic purple. He stared at the shattered remnants of his phone, then at Alex, his eyes narrowed into slits of pure venom. "My phone! Do you have any idea what this call was about? How much that phone cost?" His voice rose, attracting the attention of the few lingering guests and the hushed staff. He didn't care. His rage was a spotlight. "You clumsy, incompetent, you'll pay for this, every single cent." He towered over her, a storm of indignation. Alex stood her ground, a strange calm settling over her amidst the tempest. Her heart hammered, not from fear, but from a growing sense of validation. This was it. This was the callous disregard her grandfather had hinted at. The way he treated his property, his staff, his guests, it was all encapsulated in this petty, public humiliation. As Maxwell continued his tirade, demanding immediate compensation, a flicker of light caught her eye. The shattered screen of his phone, lying face up amidst the fragments, still displayed a fraction of the call interface. A name, partially obscured, V. Thorne, and beneath it, a string of digits, the initial ones blurred, but the last few clearly visible, along with an unusual prefix, +1917. A jolt went through her. A 917 area code. New York. But the name, V. Thorne. It sparked a vague, unsettling memory, something her grandfather had mentioned in passing about a business associate, a name connected to Orion Holdings. But why would Maxwell, a hotel manager in Seattle, be making an urgent call to someone in New York with such a seemingly personal tone? The pieces didn't fit. Not yet. The accidental phone drop wasn't just a clumsy moment. It was a microscopic tear in the fabric of Maxwell's carefully constructed facade, revealing something far more intricate and troubling. As Maxwell's angry voice grated against her ears, demanding she make good on his loss, Alex nodded, a tight, almost imperceptible smile playing on her lips. She would make good on it. Indeed. And much, much more. The immediate aftermath of Maxwell's explosion was a whirlwind of practiced apologies from Alex and a public performance of indignation from the manager, all under the scrutinizing gaze of the lobby's patrons. Alex, playing the part of the chastised employee, offered to pay for the phone, her voice laced with feigned remorse. Maxwell, still fuming, snatched a business card from his wallet, scribbled his personal Venmo, and thrust it at her like a writ of execution. "By close of business, Smith. Don't make me regret hiring you." His words were meant to sting, but to Alex, they were a validation, a bitter confirmation of the rot beneath the polished facade. Later that evening, tucked away in her temporary, sparsely furnished hotel room, a far cry from her cozy Brooklyn sanctuary, Alex laid the shattered screen of her phone on her bedside table, its broken surface reflecting the muted city lights. The name V. Thorne and the +1917 number were burned into her mind. It was a faint spark, barely visible against the vast darkness of her mission, yet it pulsed with an unsettling energy. Her grandfather had mentioned a longtime business associate, Julian Thorne, CEO of Orion Holdings, during a casual dinner years ago. A shrewd mind, Thorne, always looking for an angle. Was V. Thorne a relative? A new angle? The thought sent a ripple of unease down her spine. The old man, so often consumed by his own quiet world, rarely spoke of his business dealings, a testament to his trust in his team. But now, that trust seemed to be a vulnerability.
Alex picked up her own burner phone, the one unconnected to her real identity, and carefully typed in the numbers, omitting the last few digits. A quick search yielded nothing concrete, but the area code solidified her suspicion, a New York connection. The next few days blurred into a monotonous rhythm of observations, each moment a brush stroke, adding to a grim painting. Alex immersed herself in the hotel's operations like a ghost, moving through the bustling corridors, lingering in the back offices, her ears open, her eyes sharp. She saw the Kingston not as a guest would, but as a pathologist studying a decaying organism. The opulence was a thin veneer. Behind it, threadbare carpets in staff-only areas, flickering fluorescent lights in the kitchens, and the weary, defeated slump of long-serving employees painted a truer picture. The vibrant lifeblood of a thriving hotel was being systematically drained. The most glaring symptom was the financial hemorrhage. Invoices for luxury linens that never arrived, inflated repair costs for maintenance that never performed, and inexplicable bulk orders of obscure chemicals that sat untouched in storage closets. The paper trail was a twisted labyrinth of deception. Maxwell, she noted, spent an unusual amount of time behind his closed office door, his hushed conversations often punctuated by a low, guttural laugh that sent shivers down her spine. He moved through the hotel with an air of entitlement, a vulture circling a dying beast, picking out its bones before it had even fallen. He treated staff like dispensable cogs, barking orders, never acknowledging, rarely praising. The contrast between his public smile for the few high-paying guests and his sneer for his own employees was a stark, bitter irony. It was Sophia Chen, the head of customer service, who first offered a glimmer of genuine human connection in this cold landscape. Sophia was a woman in her late 40s, her eyes a constellation of quiet wisdom and lingering sadness. Her hands, calloused from years of typing and comforting distressed guests, moved with a practiced efficiency. She radiated a quiet strength, a warmth that seemed almost out of place in the sterile, fear-infused atmosphere of the Kingston. Alex had observed Sophia numerous times, always going the extra mile for a complaining guest, her voice soft and reassuring even as Maxwell's dictates made her job impossible. One afternoon, Alex found Sophia in a small, cluttered office, her shoulders slumped over a stack of forms, a sigh escaping her lips like a lost breath. Alex, feigning difficulty with the booking system, approached her. "Miss Chen, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm struggling with this guest request. It seems unusually complicated." Sophia looked up, her expression tired but kind. "Oh, Alex, no bother at all. What seems to be the issue?" Alex pointed to a fabricated problem, then subtly shifted the conversation. "It just feels like everything here is more complicated than it needs to be, like there are invisible roadblocks at every turn." She paused, allowing her words to hang in the air, a silent invitation. Sophia's gaze met hers, a flicker of understanding passing between them, a cautious empathy like a fragile seedling pushing through concrete. She lowered her voice. "Invisible roadblocks. Yes, that's a good way to put it, Alex. Some roads here are paved with ill intentions." Her voice was a hushed whisper, a secret shared only with the shadows. She spoke of Maxwell's unpredictable schedule changes, often forcing staff to work unreasonable hours or deny essential services. She spoke of mysterious emergency funds that appeared and disappeared from the budget with no clear paper trail. "He's like a puppeteer, Alex, pulling strings we can't see, and if you try to cut one, you might just get caught in the tangle." Sophia's words painted a picture of a man drowning in quicksand, desperate and dragging others down with him. Alex felt a surge of respect for Sophia's quiet courage, her unspoken plea for help. She knew she had found an unlikely ally.
As Alex delved deeper, another figure began to loom in her peripheral vision. David Miller, the head of security. Miller was a mountain of a man, his presence a silent, imposing force. He rarely spoke, his eyes, dark and watchful, seeming to miss nothing. He moved through the hotel's hidden passages like a ghost in the machine, always appearing, always observing. Alex had initially dismissed him as a loyal enforcer for Maxwell, another cog in the corrupt machinery. Yet there was an unsettling ambiguity to his gaze, a depth that hinted at something more than simple obedience. Her suspicions flared one night when she attempted to access the hotel's extensive security camera archives. She wanted to review footage from weeks prior, specifically around the times of those phantom luxury linen deliveries. Gaining access required a specialized keycard and a specific override code, which she had managed to subtly acquire through observation. Sitting in the dimly lit security room, the glow of the monitors casting an eerie light on her face, Alex navigated through the complex system. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, a phantom limb reaching for the truth. Then she saw it. Gaps. Not just glitches, but deliberate, surgical deletions. Entire blocks of time, hours even, vanished from the archives, primarily during late-night hours when the hotel was quietest, the very times those suspicious deliveries were allegedly made. And the remaining footage, when she found it, was subtly blurred, the timestamps slightly off-kilter, a digital ghost designed to mislead. A cold dread coiled in her stomach. This wasn't just small-time embezzlement. This was sophisticated. This implied not just corruption, but complicity from someone with deep knowledge of the system, someone like the head of security, David Miller, the man who seemed to watch everything, yet allowed so much to vanish. Just as she was about to log out, a shadow fell over her. Alex froze, her heart leaping into her throat, a trapped bird fluttering against her ribs. She slowly turned. David Miller stood in the doorway, a silent sentinel, his face a mask of impenetrable stone. He didn't say a word, didn't move. He simply watched her, his gaze unwavering, like an ancient predator assessing its prey. The air crackled with unspoken tension, thick and suffocating. "Just checking the system," Alex managed, her voice steadier than she felt, a thin veil over her racing pulse. Miller's eyes narrowed fractionally. His lips barely moved as he spoke, his voice a low rumble, barely above a whisper. "System's fine, Miss Smith. Always has been, unless someone's poking around where they shouldn't." His words hung in the air, a silent warning. He held her gaze for another long, agonizing moment, then turned and walked away as silently as he had appeared, leaving Alex alone with the chilling echo of his words and the blinking, accusing light of the tampered security footage. The encounter left her rattled. Was Miller complicit, or was he playing a deeper game? The possibility that her encrypted messages to her grandfather might also be intercepted, that her carefully constructed veil of secrecy might already be compromised, gnawed at her. The delayed, vague response she'd received earlier now felt less like an oversight and more like a warning. She was adrift in a sea of suspicion, her only anchor the fragmented phone call from Maxwell and the cryptic name V. Thorne. The chess pieces were moving, but Alex wasn't entirely sure whose side each player was on, or if she were merely a pawn in a game far larger and more dangerous than she had ever imagined. The game had just begun, and the stakes, she realized, with a growing knot of dread, were much higher than a mere broken phone.
The incident with Miller in the security room left Alex with a chilling understanding of the precarious tightrope she walked. His eyes, like twin pools of obsidian, had held a silent warning, a depth that hinted at more than just a security head's vigilance. It was the gaze of a man who saw too much, yet chose his battles carefully. The thought of her grandfather's compromised communication, his belated and vague responses, now took on a sinister new meaning. The feeling of being isolated in a hostile landscape pressed down on her, a heavy cloak woven from suspicion and fear. Yet, instead of paralyzing her, it sharpened her focus, transforming her from an investigator into a hunter. Alex spent the next few days in a quiet frenzy, her hours blurring into a continuous loop of data analysis and clandestine observation. The hotel's finance department became her personal archaeological dig site. She sifted through stacks of invoices, digital ledgers, and inventory manifests, the numbers beginning to hum with a pattern of systematic deceit. The inflated charges for premium cleaning supplies and urgent infrastructure repairs were not isolated incidents, but a consistent escalating trend. Her initial findings of Maxwell's petty embezzlement began to look like droplets in an ocean of fraud. She saw how guest complaints about dwindling amenities were actively suppressed, how positive online reviews were suspiciously boosted, and how negative ones vanished into the digital ether. The Kingston wasn't just neglected, it was being actively bled dry. Her only beacon in this oppressive gloom was Sophia Chen. Sophia, a woman sculpted by life's quiet hardships, held a fierce, almost maternal protectiveness for the hotel's remaining honest staff and its true legacy. She had seen the Kingston in its glory days, a vibrant heart of hospitality, and watched its slow, agonizing decline under Maxwell's tenure. The thought of betraying her loyalty to the hotel by allowing the corruption to fester was a torment she could no longer bear. In hushed, hurried conversations in secluded stairwells and deserted employee break rooms, Sophia supplied Alex with internal memos, discarded budget reports, and whispered anecdotes of Maxwell's increasingly desperate and erratic behavior. He's always on edge, like a cornered animal, and he's been making these odd calls, late at night, from his office. He thinks no one hears him, but the walls are thin, Alex. Thinner than he knows. Sophia's words were the match that lit a fire under Alex. The call to V. Thorne still resonated in her mind. That night, after the last of the finance staff had departed, Alex crept towards Maxwell's office. The door, usually locked with a key card, was ajar. A sliver of light spilling into the dark corridor. A low, guttural voice, Maxwell's, rumbled from within, punctuated by sharp, unfamiliar tones. Alex's heart beat a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She pulled out her burner phone, its recording function ready, and carefully edged closer, pressing herself against the cool, smooth wall beside the doorframe. The words became clearer, sharp fragments piercing the quiet night. "Don't tell me about delays, Julian. We have a deadline. The numbers are trending exactly as we planned. Another month of these maintenance issues in sterling stock will be in the basement. They'll be begging you to take it off their hands." Maxwell's voice was laced with a chilling mix of triumph and desperation. The Kingston is the perfect entry point, a public disaster, a justifiable rescue. And my cut had better be substantial this time. Orion's insurance policy, remember?
The name Julian sent a jolt through Alex. It confirmed her initial suspicions about V. Thorne. It was Julian Thorne, CEO of Orion Holdings, the very long-time friend of her grandfather. The puzzle pieces clicked into place with horrifying precision. This wasn't just hotel corruption. It was a hostile takeover, meticulously engineered to cripple the Sterling Group from within. And Orion's insurance policy, the phrase that had made Miller's eyes flicker. It echoed like a chilling mantra in the quiet office. Alex's fingers trembled as she pressed record. She needed every word. She needed irrefutable proof. She shifted slightly, trying to get a clearer audio. In her urgency, a small, leather-bound notebook, her meticulously kept log of every suspicious detail, every overheard whisper, every tampered record, slipped from her blazer pocket. It landed on the plush carpet just outside Maxwell's door with a soft, almost imperceptible thud, absorbed by the thick pile. Alex didn't notice. Her focus was entirely on the sinister conversation unfolding inside. She recorded for what felt like an eternity, the chilling details of their plot slowly solidifying into an undeniable truth. Finally, the call ended and Alex melted back into the shadows, her mind reeling, her hands clammy. She had it, the smoking gun. The next morning dawned with a strange, ominous quiet. The usual hotel bustle felt muted, hushed. Alex felt an unusual prickling sensation on the back of her neck. As she entered her small cubicle, a knot formed in her stomach. Her desk, usually a controlled chaos of files and notes, was conspicuously tidy. Too tidy. A quick check of her bag confirmed her worst fear. Her notebook, her precious compilation of evidence, every overheard whisper, every tampered record, was gone.
A cold wave of dread washed over her. Before she could even process the loss, Maxwell's booming voice, laced with an unnerving calm, echoed through the open office. "Smith, my office, now." His tone was like a viper's hiss, devoid of its usual bluster, making it all the more terrifying. Alex felt her blood run cold. She walked to his office, her spine rigid, her heart a frantic drum. The door was open, an invitation to her doom. Maxwell sat behind his large mahogany desk, bathed in the soft glow of the dusk lamp. In his hand, held aloft like a trophy, was her missing notebook. Its familiar leather cover seemed to mock her. "Lost something, Smith?" he purred, his voice a sinister velvet. His eyes, usually a chaotic storm, were disturbingly still, predatory. He flipped through the pages, his thumb caressing her meticulous notes, her damning observations. A slow, chilling smile spread across his face. "Interesting reading. Quite the little detective, aren't we?" He slammed the notebook on the desk. "You think you can waltz in here and expose me? Expose us?" His voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "This isn't some game, girl. This is serious, and you are playing with fire you can possibly not comprehend." He leaned forward, his voice a low growl. "I know who you are, Alex. I know who your grandfather is. And trust me, you don't want to bring him into this. You don't want to bring your family into this. This goes far beyond the Kingston, little girl, far beyond you." He paused, letting his words sink in, each one a poisoned dart. "Now, give me that phone, the one with the recording, and then you will forget everything you discovered. You will pack your bags and you will leave, or things will become profoundly unpleasant for you, and perhaps for dear old Grandpa, too." A cold sweat pricked Alex's brow, but beneath the fear, a steel resolve hardened within her. He was trying to intimidate her, to break her, but his threat against her grandfather, against the sterling legacy, ignited a furious defiance. She reached into her blazer, not for the burner phone, but for her own, much older and unassuming personal cell phone, the kind no one would suspect had state-of-the-art recording capabilities. She tapped a button.
The muffled, incriminating voices of Maxwell and Julian Thorne filled the opulent office, a ghostly echo of their conspiracy. "Begging you to take it off their hands. Orion's insurance policy." Maxwell's face drained of color, turning ashen. His eyes, once predatory, now held a glimmer of genuine panic. He lunged across the desk, a desperate, cornered animal, his hand outstretched for her phone. "You little fool, turn that off!" But before his fingers could even graze her phone, the office door swung open with a soft click. Sophia Chen stood framed in the doorway, her face pale but resolute. In her hands, she held a thick binder, its contents bulging, each page a testament to Maxwell's duplicity. "Looking for these, Mr. Maxwell?" Sophia's voice, usually soft, now carried an unexpected steel. Photocopied, every single one. The original fake invoices, the altered budget reports, the ghost contracts for Orion Holdings, all here. And I've already sent a copy to someone who will be very interested. Her gaze, unwavering, met Maxwell's, a quiet triumph in their depths. Maxwell's eyes darted between Alex, the phone, and Sophia, the binder. His breath hitched, a strangled sound. He was trapped. Just as he lunged again, a desperate, flailing attempt to reclaim control, a powerful hand clamped down on his shoulder. David Miller. He had appeared as silently as a shadow, his presence filling the doorway like an unbreachable wall. Maxwell spun around, his face contorted in a mix of fury and betrayal. "Miller, what is the meaning of this?" Miller's grip on Maxwell's shoulder tightened, a silent vice. His voice, when it came, was a low, resonant rumble that seemed to vibrate through the very floorboards. "The meaning, Mr. Maxwell, is that your game is over, and I don't like being played for a fool." He produced a small encrypted USB drive from his pocket. All the security footage you thought you deleted, all the communication logs you rerouted, all here. And the Orion's insurance policy you were so fond of mentioning, I've been tracking that for months. Alex's eyes widened, her surprise momentarily eclipsing her relief. Miller, the silent sentinel, the man whose loyalty had been so ambiguous, was not complicit. He was an investigator, working his own parallel game. You were helping me?" she whispered, a sudden warmth blossoming in her chest. Miller finally looked at her, and for the first time, Alex saw not just the stone facade, but a weary determination in his eyes. "Not just you, Miss Sterling, the Sterling Group. My family has worked for your family for 3 generations. We protect what's ours, and I knew this rot went deeper than Maxwell. I just needed the right moment and the right catalyst." His gaze flickered towards Maxwell, a subtle, almost imperceptible nod towards Alex's accidental phone drop. "Maxwell was a symptom, Miss Sterling, not the disease. The disease runs far deeper. It goes to the very top of Orion Holdings. And Julian Thorne is just the beginning." His words hung in the air, a chilling premonition, promising a storm far greater than any Alex had yet faced. The true game, the Kingston Gambit, was just beginning. The arrest of Robert Maxwell, though a victory, felt strangely hollow. As he was led away, his face a mask of shattered hubris, his final desperate words, "Orion's insurance policy," echoed through the office, a chilling premonition of a larger, more formidable enemy. Alex, Sophia, and Miller exchanged a look, a silent agreement solidifying between them. This wasn't the end. It was merely the opening act. The true orchestrator of the Kingston's demise was still out there, lurking in the shadows. David Miller, the silent sentinel, now shed his cloak of ambiguity. His loyalty wasn't to Maxwell, but to the Sterling legacy, a generational tether that ran deeper than any corporate ledger.
His family had served the Sterlings for decades, a quiet, unwavering devotion that had weathered economic storms and personal tragedies. Miller had seen the subtle shifts, the creeping rot long before Alex arrived. He'd meticulously tracked Maxwell's illicit dealings, not just within the hotel, but the web of offshore accounts and shell companies that fed a larger beast. His stoic exterior had been a strategic shield, allowing him to observe without drawing suspicion, to gather intel without tipping his hand. He was a silent hunter, a guardian in the shadows. Maxwell was just a lever, Miller explained, his voice losing his usual gravelly reticence as he laid out a complex flowchart of illicit transactions. The true force is Orion Holdings. Julian Thorne, their CEO, has been playing a long game, manipulating our financials through inflated contracts, sabotaging our reputation, all to depress Sterling Group's stock. They want to buy us out, dirt cheap, under the guise of a rescue operation. His words painted a vivid, horrifying picture of a predator patiently stalking its prey, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The realization hit Alex with the force of a physical blow. Julian Thorne, her grandfather's shrewd mind, a trusted confidant, the man who had shared countless holiday dinners with the Sterling family, his smiles as warm as a hearth fire. The betrayal stung sharper than any personal slight. This wasn't just corporate espionage. It was an act of profound treachery, a viper coiling in the bosom of trust. Her grandfather, reclusive and trusting, was the ultimate target. The vague, delayed responses she'd received from him now made agonizing sense. Had Thorne, with his cunning mind, managed to infiltrate even her grandfather's inner circle? The thought sent a shiver of cold dread down her spine. Sophia Chen, her initial fear giving way to righteous fury, became an invaluable asset.
Her intimate knowledge of the hotel's operations, her careful documentation of every guest complaint, every delayed service, every unusual request, provided crucial corroborating evidence. He'd make us deny service to guests with legitimate complaints, claiming budget cuts. Meanwhile, they were funneling millions into phantom renovations. It was like watching a beautiful garden wither while someone poured poison into its roots. Her testimony, laced with a raw, emotional truth, would be damning. Their objective became clear: expose Julian Thorne and Orion Holdings, the perfect stage, the Sterling Group's annual charity gala, hosted, ironically, at the very same Kingston Hotel in just 2 days. It was a flagship event, attended by Harrison Sterling himself and a constellation of influential business leaders. Orion Holdings planned to make their rescue announcement during the gala, a grand display of their supposed benevolence, a final public humiliation for the Sterling Group. "We hit them where it hurts most," Alex declared, her voice firm, the photographer's keen eye now focused on a new kind of composition, a perfectly timed unmasking. Publicly, irrefutably, we turn their own stage into their downfall. The next 48 hours were a blur of frantic preparation. The small, makeshift war room in Alex's hotel suite, once a temporary dwelling, now pulsed with the frantic energy of a clandestine operation. Laptops hummed, documents rustled, and the air crackled with hushed conversations and the scent of strong coffee. Sophia meticulously cross-referenced forged invoices with legitimate ones, highlighting the discrepancies. Miller, a digital ghost, accessed Orion's publicly available financial statements, discovering a pattern of sudden asset acquisition and suspiciously timed stock options that perfectly mirrored the Kingston's financial decline.
He even managed to pinpoint the hidden clause Maxwell had mentioned, an acquisition of distressed assets agreement, buried deep within a convoluted partnership contract between Orion and a subsidiary of Sterling Group. A clause designed to activate upon a certain percentage of stock depreciation, giving Orion first right of refusal at a predatory price. It was a masterpiece of corporate deceit, a ticking time bomb. "This clause, Miss Sterling," Miller stated, his voice devoid of emotion, but his eyes grim. "It's a last resort. If they can't outright buy us, they can still seize a significant portion of the assets under this agreement. Thorne is a fox, always has an escape route." Alex felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach. Even if they exposed him, Thorne had a fallback plan to cripple her grandfather's legacy. The stakes had just escalated. The night of the gala arrived like a velvet-draped executioner. The Kingston Hotel, normally a fading beauty, was transformed. Chandeliers blazed with renewed brilliance, their crystals shimmering like frozen tears. The scent of fresh flowers mingled with expensive perfumes, creating a deceptive aura of luxury. Harrison Sterling, elegant and stoic, greeted guests, his face a careful mask of geniality, unaware of the impending storm. Alex saw him from across the ballroom, a solitary figure radiating an old-world dignity, and a wave of fierce protectiveness washed over her. He deserved better than this betrayal. Julian Thorne, sleek and confident in a bespoke tuxedo, moved through the crowd like a shark among fish. His smile, once perceived as warm, now seemed like a predatory baring of teeth. He was a master of deception, his charm a potent weapon. He shook hands, clapped backs, his eyes alight with the satisfaction of a conqueror on the eve of victory. He paused to greet Harrison, their embrace a chilling pantomime of friendship. Alex felt a surge of nausea. The moment came. Julian Thorne, with a practiced smile and a confident stride, ascended the podium. The spotlights converged on him, bathing him in a false halo. He began his speech, his voice smooth as silk, weaving a narrative of unforeseen challenges faced by the Sterling Group and Orion Holdings' commitment to stabilizing a vital industry player. He spoke of a strategic partnership that would ensure the sterling legacy would endure. His words a honeyed poison meant to soothe anxious investors and solidify his impending coup. "And it is with immense pride," Julian announced, his voice rising to a crescendo, "that Orion Holdings, in a testament to our long-standing partnership and shared vision, will be extending a comprehensive support package ensuring the future prosperity of the Sterling Group." As he reached for a document to sign, a subtle flick of Alex's wrist activated the hidden projector. The grand ballroom, moments ago bathed in Julian's carefully crafted illusion, was suddenly assaulted by a stark, unfiltered truth. On the massive screen behind him, usually reserved for corporate logos, a mosaic of damning images flashed silently. Maxwell's recorded confession playing silently, overlaid with snapshots of doctored invoices, the inflated figures highlighted in angry red. Blurred security footage of late-night deliveries, now digitally enhanced by Miller, showing empty trucks leaving the loading dock. And then the clincher, a side-by-side comparison of genuine Sterling Group contracts with the insidious acquisition of distressed assets clause highlighted in the Orion Holdings subsidiary agreement, clearly designed to trigger a hostile takeover. The contrast was stark, brutal, a slap in the face to every person in the room.
What is this? This is a fabrication!" Thorne stammered, his voice losing its composure, cracking with raw panic. He frantically waved at the projectionist, but the screens remained stubbornly alive, broadcasting his crimes to the elite of the business world. Then, Sophia Chen, her hands clasped tightly around the binder of evidence, stepped forward, her quiet strength blossoming into an undeniable presence. Her voice, though soft, carried through the stunned silence, amplified by Miller's quick work with the microphone. "These are not fabrications, Mr. Thorne. These are facts. Documented, corroborated. For years, Mr. Maxwell, under your direction, siphoned funds from this hotel, inflated invoices, ghost contracts, denied services, all designed to make the Kingston, and by extension the Sterling Group, appear financially unstable." She opened her binder, its pages rustling like angry whispers, and held up a particularly egregious example of a forged invoice. "This, for instance, is a bill for $500,000 worth of bespoke artisanal soaps for a single floor. They never arrived. No guest has ever seen them. Yet the money vanished to Orion Holdings." Miller, a shadow detaching from the wall, then stepped beside Sophia, his tablet displaying complex financial graphs. "And my analysis confirms that these illicit funds were directly routed through shell corporations linked to Orion Holdings. The distressed assets clause in this contract here," he gestured to the screen, "was specifically activated when Sterling Group stock dropped below a certain threshold, a threshold directly manipulated by these very fraudulent activities." His voice, calm and authoritative, stripped away Thorne's last vestiges of control. Harrison Sterling, who had watched the unfolding drama with a face etched in stone, now stepped forward. His gaze, usually gentle, hardened into tempered steel as he looked at Julian Thorne. The betrayal was palpable, a wound cut deep into the fabric of friendship. The crowd was a swirling vortex of whispers and gasps. "Julian." Harrison's voice was a low rumble, the sound of thunder before a storm. "I always believed in trust, in honor. You have tarnished both." He turned to the stunned audience, his voice rising, imbued with the strength of generations. "This man, Julian Thorne, and his company Orion Holdings have systematically attempted to dismantle what my family built. But they have failed. Because unlike them, we have eyes that see and hearts that fight for what is right." The police, alerted by Miller, now moved swiftly through the throng, their uniforms a stark contrast to the glittering evening wear. Julian Thorne, his face a mask of defeat and fury, was led away, his desperate pleas of innocence drowned out by the clamor of the crowd.
The room erupted in a wave of applause and stunned murmurs. Alex stood there, the adrenaline slowly receding, replaced by a profound weariness. The primary battle was won, but Miller's words about Orion's insurance policy still echoed in her mind. Thorne was a fox, and foxes always had a backup den. The fight for Sterling Group's very soul was far from over. As the chaos slowly began to subside, Alex caught her grandfather's eye. A silent nod passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of the battle won and the greater war yet to be waged. The arrest of Julian Thorne sent shockwaves through the business world. The Sterling Group, once revered, then rumored to be in decline, suddenly stood as a testament to integrity and resilience. But the fight wasn't over. Miller's grim warning about Orion's insurance policy loomed like a thunderhead. Thorne, a fox even in defeat, had designed a contingency, a hidden clause buried deep within a labyrinthine partnership contract that would give Orion Holdings leverage over a significant portion of Sterling Group's assets, even if the hostile takeover failed. It was a poison pill designed to cripple the company from beyond the grave.
The days following the gala were a maelstrom of legal battles and frantic strategizing. Alex, no longer merely Alex Smith, junior assistant, but Alexandra Sterling, granddaughter of the Titan, stood at the epicenter. Her transformation was complete. The quiet photographer who once sought solace in the solitude of nature now commanded conference rooms, her voice clear and decisive, her gaze steady and unyielding. The vulnerability that once shattered her had been forged into an inner steel, tempered by fire. The grief for her parents, long a private burden, now fueled a fierce determination to protect the legacy they had indirectly left her. Sophia Chen, once a woman whose spirit seemed bowed by the weight of unspoken truths, now moved with a newfound lightness. Her honesty, once a quiet act of defiance, had become a powerful weapon. She tirelessly worked alongside Alex, her expertise in hotel operations proving invaluable in dissecting Orion's fraudulent contracts. They hid their tracks well, Sophia remarked one evening, poring over a faded ledger, her brow furrowed in concentration, like a spider weaving a web of whispers and lies. But Sophia, with her meticulous nature, was unpicking every strand. David Miller, the stoic sentinel, had shed his cloak of ambiguity entirely. His unwavering loyalty to the Sterling family was palpable. He was a man of few words, but each one carried the weight of generations of service. He moved with a quiet efficiency, his presence a comforting anchor in the stormy seas of corporate litigation. He was the strategist, the shadow warrior who understood the enemy's tactics better than anyone. He worked tirelessly to dismantle Thorne's insurance policy, his fingers flying across keyboards, tracking digital footprints that stretched across continents. The core of the insurance policy was a clause in an obscure technology infrastructure partnership agreement signed years ago, granting Orion Holdings significant ownership stakes in Sterling Group's digital assets should certain financial metrics fall below a predetermined threshold. It was a brilliant, insidious maneuver, a backdoor takeover hidden in plain sight. Thorne, even from his jail cell, was pulling strings, attempting to trigger this clause through a series of timed financial maneuvers designed to push Sterling Group stock just low enough. The final confrontation wasn't in a ballroom, but in the sterile, tension-filled atmosphere of a high-stakes arbitration hearing. Julian Thorne, pale and defiant, was brought in, his once charming smile replaced by a venomous sneer. He believed he held the winning hand, that his insurance policy would guarantee him at least a partial victory, a consolation prize carved from the Sterling empire. His lawyers, slick and aggressive, presented their case, arguing for the activation of the clause, painting Orion as a victim of internal mismanagement, unfairly implicated by a vengeful employee. But Alex was prepared. She stood before the arbitration panel, her voice clear and strong, a testament to her newfound strength. She didn't just present documents, she painted a picture of calculated deceit, of a legacy being bled dry. She played the amplified recording of Maxwell's confession, Thorne's voice chillingly clear.
She showed Miller's intricate flowcharts tracing the money from Sterling Group accounts to Orion shell companies. Sophia, for her part, provided a heart-wrenching testimony, recounting years of silence complaints and active sabotage, detailing how budget cuts were a smokescreen for grand larceny. But the true checkmate came from an unexpected quarter. As Thorne's lawyers presented their final arguments for the activation of the distressed assets clause, Alex's grandfather, Harrison Sterling, made a rare dramatic appearance. He was old, his steps measured, but his eyes, sharp and unwavering, held the wisdom of a century. He hadn't attended the gala, preferring to let Alex take the lead, but this, he knew, was the true battle for the Sterling legacy.
Harrison spoke with a quiet authority that silenced the room. He didn't deny the validity of the contract or even the clause itself. Instead, he presented a single yellowed document, its edges brittle with age, a copy he had retrieved from his private vault. It was a supplemental agreement, signed years ago, a rarely used, almost forgotten codicil to the original partnership. This codicil, a testament to his own foresight and a subtle nod to his late wife's financial acumen, explicitly stipulated that any clause related to asset acquisition or distress could be unilaterally voided by the Sterling Group's principal owner if proven that the distress was caused by deliberate, fraudulent action by the partnering entity. It was a forgotten failsafe, a ghost in the machine that Thorne, in his arrogance, had overlooked. The room gasped. Thorne's face, already ashen, now turned a ghastly shade of green. His lawyers scrambled, poring over the document, their faces a mixture of disbelief and defeat. It was irrefutable. The arbitration panel, after a brief recess, ruled swiftly and decisively in favor of Sterling Group. The insurance policy was nullified. Orion Holdings' plan to cripple the Sterling Group had been utterly, definitively thwarted. The victory was exhilarating, but for Alex, it was more than just a win. It was a profound coming of age. She had entered the Kingston a skeptical artist, cloaked in a false identity. She emerged as a leader, tempered by adversity, her purpose clear. The corporate world, once a distant, abstract concept, now felt like a living, breathing entity that she understood and perhaps could even reshape. In the months that followed, the Sterling Group underwent a quiet revolution. Harrison Sterling, with a proud gleam in his eyes, formally announced Alex as the new CEO of Sterling Group. It wasn't just a title, it was a passing of the torch, a testament to her intelligence, resilience, and unwavering moral compass. Alex, once wary of her family's wealth, now embraced its potential for good. The Kingston Hotel, the very crucible of her transformation, became the first flagship of the new Sterling era. Under Alex's direct supervision, it underwent a true, honest renovation. The old neglect was scrubbed away, replaced by genuine care. The staff, no longer living under Maxwell's tyranny, bloomed, their smiles genuine, their service infused with pride. Sophia Chen was promoted to a newly created position, Chief of Guest Experience, her insights invaluable in reshaping the hotel's ethos. David Miller became the head of global security for the entire Sterling Group, his quiet competence now a foundational pillar of the company's integrity. He continued his work in the shadows, not hunting predators, but building unbreachable fortresses of security. Alex, though immersed in her new role, never abandoned her camera. She still found solace behind the lens, but now her subjects had shifted. Instead of grand landscapes, she captured the quiet dignity of her employees, the genuine delight of her guests, the renewed vibrancy of the Kingston. Each photograph was a testament to the power of truth, the beauty of honesty,
and the enduring strength of a legacy rebuilt not with steel and concrete, but with integrity and courage. The Kingston Gambit had been a perilous game, but Alex had played it well, and the future of the Sterling Group now gleamed, brighter and stronger than ever before.
Reflection and takeaways. Thank you for joining us on this thrilling journey through the Kingston Gambit. What an incredible ride it's been. This story, I believe, offers powerful insights into the nature of integrity and resilience. Alex, initially an outsider, transformed into a formidable leader by staying true to her values, even when faced with overwhelming corruption. It highlights the importance of trust, but also the dangers of misplaced trust. We see how a network of deceit can quietly erode even the strongest foundations, and how one brave individual, supported by loyal allies like Sophia and Miller, can expose the darkest corners. This story reminds us that true strength isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes it's a quiet determination to seek the truth, to stand up for what's right, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. What did you think of Alex's journey? What lessons resonated most with you? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories, and share this with your friends. Thank you for listening.